I've been to multiple clinics or camps as a observing coach, and I belong to PGC as a coaching member as well. And they just do a great job. They do a great job not only from skills perspective, but also mental skills perspective and just behavior and culture and what it means to be a basketball player. It's not just about everything that happens on the court. And so one of the things that comes up a lot of times in clinics in general, and PGC certainly does a good job of talking about this too, but I want to expand on it a little bit more and then maybe provide some additional thought for those of you who were there that work with me, and then maybe just those of you who are thinking on the same thought about this idea of one, confidence, and two, choice. And a lot of confidence is a matter of choice, right? You've heard me talk about confidence being directly tied to your preparation and the work you've put in, that confidence goes up when that happens. But confidence also is affected by your internal dialogue. Some people might call it self-talk, but what I want to bring to light today is not just the self-talk, but it's the choices you're making with the self-talk, right? And I want you to realize that you have control over the type of dialogue that you're having with yourself, what you're hearing with yourself, right? And there's an important component of this, and it's called volition, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I'm going to share this parable with you because I think it's important as it relates to confidence and your ability to choose the types of dialogues you have, but it also relates to your ability to choose what you're going to do, whether you're going to stay at home. Like serious athletes, I just want to sit at home and play video games. Okay, maybe you're not a serious athlete, but there are a lot of young athletes who just don't know how to grind yet, right? They just haven't quite figured it out. And some of that has to do with just not being trained to do that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today too. But there's this parable, and it goes something like this. This is a young native boy, and he's struggling. And this happens to a lot of us, right? On one shoulder, there's one voice in his head, and it's one wolf. And that wolf, it's the bad wolf. And the bad wolf is telling him, hey, stay at home. Don't go outside. It's cold. It's wet. It's freezing. You don't need to be out there working out. You need to be playing video games. And then on the other shoulder is the good wolf. And that good wolf is telling him, hey, if you want to succeed, you need to be outside. You need to be working out. You need to do focused, intentional practices. You need to be present when the coach is talking. You need to be present at all your practices. You need to be bringing energy to your practices. It's all the good things. So there's these two opposing forces, these two wolves on this native boy's shoulders, and he's struggling with this idea of which wolf to listen to and which wolf wins. And so he goes to talk to his grandfather, and he's telling his grandfather the story. Hey, I'm having this problem. I got these two wolves on my shoulder talking. And you can relate to that as a young player. You have these opposing energies constantly pulling at you. It's comfortable to stay at home. It's uncomfortable to go outside. And I'm going to pause there for a second. I'm just going to say this. Comfort is your enemy. Nothing great in life comes from comfort. It comes from the discomfort and struggle. And that comfort should be a thing that is a reward to discomfort. You've done something hard. You've done something uncomfortable, discomfortable. And then you do something as a reward for that. That's your comfort. It shouldn't start there. So we all have these two wolves. And this young boy is sharing with his grandfather his struggle and not knowing exactly what to do and which wolf will win, like what voice in his head is going to prevail. And his grandfather looks at him and says, well, this is easy. The wolf that wins is the wolf you feed. The wolf that wins is the wolf you feed. And so I think it's important to put this in the context of young athletes who are struggling with this too. Like, what are you feeding? What are you giving attention to? And you have a choice of which wolf to listen to ultimately. And here we're going to get into this notion of volition. And volition is just essentially, in simple terms, a will to choose. And PGC did a great job of talking about choice. You have choice. But what I want to expand on to you is this idea of a will to choose. A lot of times you hear this idea that I have choices, but we don't always talk about the will to choose. And volition is a really important component. And this gets at these wolves too, right? Like, which wolf are you going to feed? What will are you going to employ that's better than another, right? Which wolf are you going to listen to? And this idea of volition in terms of getting outside and going for a workout or doing whatever you need to do is super important. That you have the will to choose, that you don't simply let life happen to you, that there's a lot in your control. You control what wolf you listen to. You control what thoughts you have. And I think the important piece, if we're talking about confidence, is identifying the thoughts that you're having, the self-dialogue, like, what am I saying to myself? And then choosing to pick the better option. What's the best option? The best option is you're your best coach. You're your biggest cheerleader. We've talked about this with recruiting in terms of colleges recruiting. A lot of athletes will think, well, I'm a great player, and so colleges should just come find me. Wrong. You're your biggest advocate. You need to be the one. That would be something that's out of your control. Someone's coming to find you. It's not going to happen. You need to take that action. You need to have the volition, the will to choose to be the bigger person, the stronger athlete, the better athlete, the more mentally tough athlete, and go take action against that. And to recognize, hey, this conversation that's going on in my head about my performance is not good. I'm the one who's controlling the thoughts. And here's the thing to remember. There's nothing in life that ever happens without it being preceded by a thought. So any great performance of your favorite athlete that you've ever seen happen, it didn't happen just out of the ether. That performance came because it was preceded by some thought. And that athlete had some volition to nurture that thought. That thought might have been, I'm going to have the best handles. I'm going to have the best shot. I'm going to be the hardest worker, whatever it was, right? And they started to choose that angle, choose that process, choose which wolf to feed. So to expand on what was talked about in terms of choice, you not only have a choice, but you have a will to choose. Focus on nurturing the will to choose. Having a choice is a choice, right? Focus on that. And then understand that whatever wolf you're feeding, that's the one that's going to grow. That's the one that's going to win. Whatever plant you're watering, that's the one that's going to grow. So if you spend your time focused on these negative things, whatever they are, right? Being we say as an energy reducer in our practices, we want you to be an energy maker, one that brings energy. And you should be doing that in your practices, and you should be doing that in your own mental state. That's something you control. That is the thing you control. There's going to be a lot of things in your sporting career that you can't control. And anytime you can focus on the things you can, and then you have the volition, the will to choose the right path, that's going to lead to success. And I'm going to leave you with this. One of the most, and I would probably say the single most important differentiator between okay and good to great, the things that separate athletes at the end of the day boils down to volition. It's the will to choose. Choose the right path. Don't be a passenger in your journey. Be the pilot.